Greetings. Today it will be very interesting and very controversial subject about the only fools culture and behavior of some women that the media promotes, like Any Night from Australia.
People judge me because I slept with 300 people last year.
That's proud of having fun with hundreds of men and promoted that as respectful and positive behavior for women's psychology, and something to strive on in life. And I want to discuss this topic from cultural perspective, from my culture, and why this is pathology specifically of the Western world. It will be very interesting. Stay till the end. It's time for you to create life according to your rules. CLATYR, create life according to your rules. So if we looking about the Slavic culture, after the Second World War, in our society, we had minority of men and majority of women. Basically because men were used as a meat in wars, so they've been used. So they sacrificed their lives for wars. And what happened that many women stay alive while a lot of millions of men passed away at wars. The glory, defense, whoa. So what happened after the Second World War? So there have been majority of women and minority of men. So in order for women in our culture to procreate, they needed to compete very hard on the men that's left. Because imagine, not all men are perfect husbands or perfect people, you know. Everyone has their own disadvantages. But not only that, that means that the men that are very appealing and attractive and qualify for a good husbands and fathers, there is even fewer of them. That means that these women needed to try really, really hard to succeed and compete with other women, in order to procreate, have a husband and a family. And back then it was very important goal and value in society that women will be married early as possible, usually 18, 19, 20. And of course, that's when the Soviet Union was, life was completely different, you know. You had everything sorted by the government. You received houses, jobs, food, everything from the government. Yes, it's not like they lived very highly rich. And of course, some people had better conditions than others. Of course, human nature. But eventually, you got everything that you needed. And there was no problem at all, of course, to men in an area of relationships. Because it was an abundance of relationships. Yeah, especially for men. For women, it was way harder. So what women did? Of course, they made themselves attractive, appealing as possible. Attractive, appealing as much as possible, healthy much as possible, fertile much as possible, educated much as possible, you know, that they could compete with other women because. And of course, they treated the men as best as possible they could, because they knew if she will treat him badly, and won't satisfy him as a wife, psychologically, sexually, culturally, yeah? Won't treat him with high respect, love, and appreciation, for him to live very easy. And unfortunately, I must admit that many men taken advantage of that situation and been cheating. Not all of them, of course, but that phenomenon occurred. I'm not saying the men back then were angels. They're not. And even then, a lot of these women forgave their husbands or knew about their affairs and stayed with them because they knew, well, the chance for me to find someone else, even if they're 25 or 30, yeah, it's considered old, the chance is low, and probably if I'll remarry again, probably that one will cheat as well. So for me, there is no point of divorcing him or stop relationship with him, because it is what it is. So that's one of the reasons the Slavic women are extremely beautiful, because that's how they've been grew up with generations. They invested a lot of effort into their looks, because that's the main thing that men are hardwired, evolutionary, psychologically, biologically, to be attracted to. And of course, if we come in with the years now after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Slavic nations are opening themselves up to the Western culture, and all the women's rights movements, on the feminism movements, and demanded, of course, equality, which at the moment, today, in the Slavic countries, there is complete disequality, discrimination against men in all levels. In the social part, in the legal part, and societal part. There's complete discrimination. Women already reached that place that they have way more options and rights than any other man, including financial and options to earn money and work. Because all these ideas came from the Western society. And yes, I know and I understand that in Western society, let's say in the 90s, 20s, it was no-fault divorce was illegal, and the woman kind of in the past belonged to the man, and a lot of women sat at home, and it's not for every woman. Some women really felt miserable having such life, and eventually this is why patriarchy, I think it's the right word, collapsed, because maybe men were happier like that, but it didn't satisfy the women, and that's why all the protests came out, because this model is not a model that have enough benefits for women, and that's understandable. But of course, the part that we can't really argue, that at least patriarchy, it was a model and a system that actually helped people to procreate and have children and families. Yes, but unfortunately the women weren't satisfied in this system. And what we have now at the moment is the Western world is going extinct. If you're looking at New Zealand, Australia, Japan, South Korea, US, Canada, yeah? All these countries are going extinct because the procreation levels are below replacement rate for many years already. Some countries more, some countries are less. So the problem with relationship between men and women already happening for, I think, for 20 years, and now it's becoming worse and worse. 2025 at the moment is one of the worst years for relationship between men and women in the Western world. And the same thing happening, of course, in the Slavic nations as well, because they got infected with the Western propaganda that leads to extinction. So what are we having these days? Why OnlyFools website is so kind of in demand? Why some young women that, if I'm consider how they look, it's of course a matter of taste, but that men from Slavic countries, and me as well when I'm there, that I used to date women that looks 8 till 10, like model level. As I explained, a lot of women in the Slavic countries are like that. And do you understand the reasons why they're so good looking? And I had access to have relationship with such women, yes. What's happening here? An average looking woman that I consider maybe 5, 6, and again, it's not good or bad, it's just a matter of taste, because I can be 2 to someone, and I'm sure for most New Zealand women I'm a 2. That's fine, I'm not get offended. But for some women, if I go to other place, I'm maybe a 8, 9 or a 10. So if I see some women that making a profit from the platform of OnlyFools and earning insane amounts of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, per month. Let's think about from what exactly they are profiting from. Because there are two sides. It's not like they are the one that doing that. There is a reason, there is a buyer. Who is the one who is purchasing those services and why? Well, of course, men are the one who mostly consuming these contents. And some of the men also are married and consuming those contents. And what actually this content is about? It's about these women gives these men the illusion and play that they kind of love them. So it means it's called, what I'm talking about is the love economy. You need to pay to get fake love. And it's fake because you pay that the woman will play some kind of role for some amount of minutes, and then you go with your day. You get your dopamine, your chemicals, and then you get addicted. And that's one of the reasons I'm talking about, because OnlyFools, it's an addiction. An addiction, it's something that needs to be treated, and that's, as a health professional, I'm talking about this subject, because it's a problem amongst a lot of men these days. And again, I'm not judging the men that are in this position, because why in the Slavic countries there is no such problem with OnlyFools? Why men, most of the years in the Slavic countries, see OnlyFools as what's the point of that? Why even bother at going there to look at someone at the screen to play some kind of role? Why these men want to lie to themselves that what she's doing is meant for them and she's not playing a role? Like, why they're lying to themselves? Because again, imagine me being in Ukraine, for example. I have no issues to meet a woman that I'm attracted to and answer my physiological needs. And the women that I date are very high quality. They are very smart, very beautiful, very interesting, very educated. Yeah? So there is no such problem. So men who have options to date women with no problem, of course they won't need those websites, and also to pay for that. Why? Just you know. But what's happening in the Western countries? In the Western countries, there is a big gap and big inequality between men and women. I'm not talking about the legal part because I don't know enough about that. I think in the Western countries it's quite, it tends to the women's side, but it's more equal than in other Slavic nations today. But today, for a woman, she's okay looking to go on a date every day. It's no problem because she just needs to go on a dating app, put maybe 1 or 2 photos, she's looking okay, write completely nothing about herself, and she will get 40, 50 matches. Almost every man will put a swipe right on her. And if a average plus man, yes, will swipe the same, he will get almost no matches. And they are the ones who mostly pay for the app, while women usually stay with the free app. Of course, it changes in ages 40 plus, but let's stay in the average, in ages where the main aim is procreation, having a family, children, and helping society not to disappear, yeah? Because that's the main thing. People were getting married and having a relationship because, yes, to procreate, to contribute to society, to grow a country, the economy, yeah? That was the reason why people got into families in the first place. But unfortunately today, with the economic changes and artificial intelligence, the elite actually don't need as much as people. That's one of the reasons we see all this madness going around the world, because in their opinion, there are too many of us. But that's a conversation for completely another video. Anyway, so what's happening in the Western countries, average plus men will need to try super extremely hard, yes, just to meet a woman who, for him, he considers a 5. And a lot of the time, they settle for 4 or 5. And a lot of the times when they even get into relationship, if they get lucky to get into relationship, and the women can mistreat them really badly, psychologically abuse them, they will stay in that relationship because they say, oh, if I leave, probably I won't have a chance to get any, so I prefer to be with her than being alone, which unfortunately it's very destructive attitude. And that's one of the reasons, if we look at worldwide statistics, we see that men live in average 10 years less than women. But that's again another topic. But what we're looking at, many men, especially the young one, yes, from ages 18 till 30, 32, 34, there are a lot of men and growing up numbers of men that never even had a physical contact with a woman. But wait a second, their biological needs are still there. Their prime is still there. Their want and need for a family, procreation, warmth and good treatment of a woman is still there. And of course, they're going online and they having all these messages, especially sexual nature messages everywhere. And then, because of this mad situation, you have women like any night that take advantage of this lonely men that eager to have some kind of female connection.
I'm Annie. People judge me because I slept with 300 people last year, but I don't care. I first started doing spicy content in 2020. It was during COVID. I saw some girls on TikTok talking about all the money they were making, and I thought, that sounds pretty easy. It's now been 4 years and I absolutely love it. When I first started, I was earning about $9,000 a month, and now I earn about $250,000 a month. So right now I'm just setting up my stage, I guess, for my job. I'm pretty simple when it comes to filming content. I like to just use my tripod, and I like to keep things pretty personal, kind of like the girlfriend experience, nothing too crazy. Yeah, ready to go. I first started being open about my sex life online, or maybe 9 months ago, and I honestly was just sharing it for fun. Then I was just like sharing my sexual experiences because I thought it was good to break the stigma of women being sexual. And then over time, people started really enjoying my content. So I started deciding to set myself goals, and that's when I came up with the 300 people in a year.
So they announcing, oh, I'm doing an auction of having fun with hundreds of guys. Whoever want to sign, register and come. And hundreds of men line up just to experience few minutes contact with a woman they're going to share with hundreds other men. That's the situation of how low self-respect these men are feeling, how desperate they are. And again, I can't say I'm judging them, but yeah, unfortunately it's so sad to see that men completely lost their self-respect. Completely lost their self-respect. And if I can help some of the men to gain this self-respect back, I'll be honored to do that. For me, it will be really great mission and a purpose and a task to help men like that to get out of this cycle of dependency and to be in a place that they have such lack and need of female contact. And let's add to that society also romanticize and idealize the connection with a woman too much in movies, in talks, everywhere. And eventually, all these processes happen in men's head. Always, the way they imagine how it's going to happen, how a relationship with a woman will be, way better in the head than eventually how it actually is. And eventually they fall to this trap. And they go into these self-lies and pay a lot of money for women who play in a camera and give them fake paid love. It's very, very sad to see this reality from a perspective of a man that was many years surrounded by really high quality, beautiful women. Face to face, not online, face to face, which actually is a normal thing. And I feel very, very sad for the men in the Western world that need to experience such reality. And also, me, as someone who lives in New Zealand, experience the same reality with all of you. But luckily me, at least I have really good experience of what is actually good relationships. I know what it is. Many of you can't even imagine how can you be in a place when you're surrounded by really high, beautiful, educated women and you don't need to work your ass off and be Superman to date them. just come and say hi, and then after a few days you can maybe start living together. You can't imagine something like this happening in the Western world. For majority of you, it would probably never happen in 2025. And I lived in such reality. And for many years, I was going out of New Zealand for a few months just to not get insane from what's happening here. Just to keep myself psychologically stable from all the culture that's happening here between men and women. And you understand and see that it's a pathology, because if it wasn't a pathology, yes, the Western countries won't be going on a path of extinction. And yes, filling up the country with a lot of migrants and make the housing prices way more expensive, and for the young people not be able to afford anything. That also strategy how population is getting reduced. Because who is not procreating are actually the men and women who financially are not really can get ahead. Yeah? But if you look at statistics today, look at the upper class that have a lot of money in houses. Almost all of them has at least 3 children and above. So who actually is suffering are the ones who are poor classes. And they are the ones who are not procreated, and of course they are educated as well. So the educated upper class are procreating, and the educated middle and lower class not procreating. And of course poor people also do procreate. And of course poor and not educated, if you look at like African countries. Yeah, so that's the sad reality of the West. And the reason I'm talking about that younger women need to understand this phenomena and hopefully will empathize with the difficult situation that men are living in the Western countries. And the last thing will take example of women like Annie Knight, that yes, she making lots of profit, but she making profit of loneliness of men. I don't see anything good she does to humanity and society by demonstrating this behavior, including all the social media that promoting and normalizing such behavior. Hopefully that's enough for today. Have a good week. It's time for you to create life according to your rules. CLATYR. Create life according to your rules.